Celtics Beat is brought to you by Prize Picks and the Game Time app.
What's up, everyone? Welcome in. Now, just to right off the hop, clear up a little bit of confusion. I know we ended the last show by saying that Evan and I were not going to be here for this show. We got our weeks a little mixed up. We're not going to be here for the next show. But also, we did reschedule things a little bit. Normally, we come your way a Friday or a Saturday. We wanted to hit you midweek so that we were sure to preview what was a theoretical Celtics Magic, Celtics Hawks first round playoff series. Now we know it is Boston against Orlando. And we also, on the way to righting some wrongs, wanted to, fix something that, just a few weeks ago, Cedric Maxwell, of course, part of the CLNS family, longtime member of the broadcast, longtime player for the Celtics, finals MVP, a now multi-time author. Congrats, Max, on yet another book that is out for anyone that missed that. We can touch on that. What I wanted to fix was Max was with us only a few weeks ago. And normally when somebody is on with us, we don't want to bother them. We don't want to ask too much of them. We don't want to go back to the well too frequently. We like to spread it out, have somebody on once every couple months, that kind of thing. Mm-hmm. But we had to go right back to Max because he wasn't on with us very long the last time. Our fault, not his. Our time was a little bit limited. It was a rush recording. I wanted to give us time to breathe a little bit and not feel as though Max couldn't get all of his thoughts out, because we got a lot to cover from this team, the book, Celtic City, you name it. Max, welcome back.
Well, thank you guys for having me back. I appreciate it. Getting ready for this upcoming series with Orlando, and should be interesting. It should be. I think the biggest question, I think Celtics should beat Orlando, but the biggest question, I think, concerning everybody is going to be, how is Jaylen Brown moving? I think that's the biggest concern.
Without a doubt, the Brown injury concerns and to what degree he's even available in the opening round of the playoffs beginning on Easter Sunday in the afternoon, by the way. So rearrange your dinner plans, folks. We'll get to the full schedule and all that in a little bit. I don't know. Remains to be seen. Obviously, the team is not saying as we sit here midweek. But, you stick out in my mind, Max, for a number of different reasons, things that you say when you join us on this show or when you do your own show there as part of the CLNS Media Network, obviously. But I often refer back to you because it was many months ago on this program that you said, I had asked you specifically, who is Boston's biggest threat in the Eastern Conference? What is it? Cleveland? Is it New York? Is it Indy? Is it Milwaukee? Philly at the time when we were attempting to take them seriously before all the injuries took over. You said you felt it was Orlando, and that was before they had a bunch of injuries. Banchero went out. He has since come back. Wagner, both of them went out. Franz, the more important one, is back. How are you looking at this Orlando team now after an absolute curb stomping of the Atlanta Hawks in the play-in game?
Well, I think that's still going to be a tough team. I think they're well coached. I think that they play hard. I think if you look at them, they have big bodies and they defend the basketball. They have a hard time scoring the basketball. But I think that Cole Anthony the other day had a huge game. How will he play? Suggs, I think, is still out. So that was a big part for him. But they can play. They have some guys over there can play, and they are going to be very, very physical. So the Celtics have to have their physicality ready. I mean, Banchero is 6'9", about 260. Moving like a cat, and really it can be tough. So, a lot of stuff has to happen for the Celtics.
I look at Banchero in the playing game. I thought he had a really great first half as a distributor, which I wasn't really quite used to. But I look at Banchero, and I just remember watching him come into the NBA his rookie year and just go, I don't care what he's good at right now, because most guys don't look like that when they enter the league at 19 years old. When you look at him, he's got this man's body at 22, 23 years old. And you look at him like a little ball of clay of, all right, well, he clearly has a lot of this going on right now. And if he adds a little bit of this, a little bit of this, a little bit of this, he's really, really, really tough to stop. Does he remind you? Because I don't put Tatum there, because Tatum and him are very different players. But does he remind you of anyone, of a guy that size, with shoulders like that, with physicality like that can manipulate the game the way he can offensively?
I think Karl Malone was the first guy that comes to mind. Big body, runs the floor, 6'9", about 260. He's more of a facilitator than Karl Malone. But scoring the basketball, he runs up and down, he attacks the rim. So that is a guy that immediately comes to mind when I think about somebody that I played against or somebody who was formerly in the NBA.
That Orlando team, you mentioned Cole Anthony and obviously Anthony Black, another guy who has come on quite a bit of late and, had some really solid performances in the, role player stature that he has, to where, like, the thing that surprised me most about this play-in game, this overwhelming, I know it got tight at points, but ultimately an overwhelming win over the Atlanta Hawks, is that the two big stars, Banchero and Wagner, in terms of the offense, obviously facilitating, like Banchero flirted with a triple-double. He had 7 assists. Wagner was a lead on the boards. There's not, other than Okongwu, a ton of size on that Atlanta team in terms of the guys that are healthy, but he had 13 rebounds. Both were aggressive. Both played north of 30 minutes, all of that stuff. But neither one touched 20 points in this game, which, I think should be a good reminder that while they put up 120 and got a combined 30 out of those two guys, I mean, that's 90 points coming from everybody else. He had 26 from Cole Anthony. He had 16 from Anthony Black. He had 19 from Wendell Carter Jr. How much of a threat do you think is the depth on this team as it relates to Boston and what the Celtics are going to be looking to do defensively?
No, that's probably one of the keys. I think Wendell Carter Jr., he's the starter. He can get it done, scoring the basketball. That's where the Porzingis comes in, putting pressure on them. They don't have those bigs like that or are going to be able to contain a guy like Porzingis who can play in the paint, knock down shots from the outside. The physicality again about rebounding the basketball. Celtics get out and run against this team, but you have to be disciplined, you have to be sound, and understand that this team is not going to give up. They're going to battle you from beginning to the end. And that's what makes them very, very tough. The fact that they're not going to give any quarter at all on the boards. I saw them get at least 7 to 8 rebounds, contested rebounds on the offensive end. And a lot of times what teams do is they just retreat, go back the other way when they miss a shot. Orlando doesn't do that. They follow their shots up. They're looking to get second chance opportunities.
This has been talked about a lot already, and it's just going to be part of the discourse of series. Is just how seriously do you take a team that just doesn't shoot the ball relatively well? I think, are they dead last in 3-point percentage in the league going against a team that shoots 40 to 50 a game? When you look at just how inept they can be offensively, I would find it not easy, but like a little bit easier to maybe say, yeah, we don't have to take them super seriously because as long as we take care of, we guard a yard a little bit and we get the threes up we normally do, we should win this handily. How hard is it to fall into that trap of, they're young, they're inexperienced, they're not great shooting the basketball, and there are a lot of things that point the Celtics direction that they could easily overlook this team and just brush them off. Is it hard to lock in to a series like this, knowing that you're just more talented, better offensively, more experienced?
Well, if you're the world champions, you better come with your A game because this is a hungry team. And hungry teams have a way that they're trying to prove something, not only to the rest of the NBA, but they're trying to prove something to themselves that they belong. So I would look at them as a dangerous opponent. Uh, they knocked down some threes the other day. Cole Anthony, some other guys, Black knocked down some threes. But their main people, Wagner isn't necessarily the best three. Van Carroll isn't necessarily the best 3-point shooter. But in a series, when teams can get hot, anything can happen. So if you're the Celtics right now, you want to take care of business immediately once you see this team and try to put them in your rearview mirror. So I understand what you're saying. Stats say that the Celtics are going to win this game easily, this series easily, because the volume of the threes that they make compared to the not volume of threes that the opposition makes. But that's why they have to play the game. The game is the ball still thrown out there, and you got to get it.
Yeah, to that point, looking back through the series history of just this regular season, these two teams matched up a couple days before Christmas in Orlando. Boston lost that game by 4. Jason Tatum, I believe, wasn't available in that game, correct, Ev? So he wasn't out there, and again, you lose by 4 on the road. Play again at the Garden, mid-January. Celtics win that game by almost 30. Tatum's back, scores 30 points. The only other meeting, it came very recently, April 9th, when Boston didn't play anyone.
Mhm.
Shireman was the leading scorer. Boston lost by 20, but again, nobody of note played in that game, so you throw that one out. So effectively, they split during the regular season. But again, you could even, if you want to, do that whole built-in excuse thing if you didn't have your best player and an all-NBA first-teamer and an MVP candidate and yada, 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 and Jason Tatum. I think there are a lot of people out there,
What
Max,
the
and you
hell
just
does
alluded
yada
to it.
yada yada mean?
Means on and on and on, et cetera, et
Okay,
cetera, et
I
cetera.
just got.
Yeah,
I'm just trying to figure it out. If
sure.
I'll use it sometimes. Yada yada yada. My daughter
I
likes to
think you've
go.
heard that
My
before.
daughter loves to go. So my daughter loves to use this thing called so forth and so on. I'm like, what the hell is that? Hell does that mean? Okay,
Et
yada yada
cetera, et
yada.
cetera.
I get it. I get it. I get it. So
So
okay, tie that
look,
in.
you alluded to this. You know, there are like most Celtics fans are if they're going to attempt to be humble, they will say Boston in 6. I
Mhm.
would say the average fan says Boston in 5, and not those that say, all right, as long as Jaylen's cool, sweep. Forget the gentleman sweep, sweep. The point is, there is no one, at least with any real accreditation related to the NBA, that believes that Orlando truly has a shot to win this series.
Well, do
I
you
mean, hell,
remember
Vegas odds are like minus 8,000 for Boston to win this series.
what?
But
Yeah.
you can't help but think back to like that first year of the new Big Three era, right? When Al Horford's Atlanta Hawks took the Celtics 7 games. So I don't know what does it take for Orlando to catch Boston sleeping here
Well,
to where this series is a little more legit than some of us, including me, are willing to give it credit for.
Well, didn't we see the national media last year? The narrative in the finals last year was Luca is the best player right now in this
Yeah, and it
series,
was stupid.
and they're going to beat the Celtics. They might even sweep the Celtics. So what the Celtics damn near swept them, and the best
Yep.
player in the series was Jaylen Brown
Mm-hmm.
and Tatum, and then it got to Kyrie, and Luca might have been third, maybe fifth. And that was because Porzingis really didn't play in that series. But I think that the narrative is out there, and it just always scares me when you think about a team like the Celtics playing that, and they cannot play down to the level of the competition. They better bring their A game, because I think in the second half of the year, what we start seeing was the Celtics protecting their home court. In the beginning of the year, Celtics did not protect their own court. They were one of the best road, according to my broadcast partner Sean Grandy, one of the best road teams in the history. Make sure I
Mm-hmm.
get close to the camera here. In the history of the NBA, that's what Sean Grandy said. So I think that they have a cushion in the fact that if they get out and they play hard, they play well, but the Celtics still have the ability to go out on the road and win a basketball game in Orlando. So I'm not going to say Orlando can't win, but I'm going to say it's going to be difficult and a total uphill and a total surprise if Celtics got knocked out by Orlando.
Yeah, I think we used Jaylen Brown a lot to maybe use this point of, if he's not 100%, I could see the physicality of Orlando bothering him a little bit, and maybe it throws him off, and thus the Celtics off. There's a lot of it takes a lot, but I want to stick with Jaylen because a lot of has been made about him playing on this injury versus not.
Mhm.
And there are some people that are of the mindset of he shouldn't play, he should have rested, he should never have stepped on the court if he wasn't feeling comfortable at the end of the season to save whatever injury it was. There are some people who would say he needed to play on it to learn what he can and cannot do with this injury so he has a better idea of what the playoffs are going to look like.
So
Where are
so
you?
let me ask you this: those
Go ahead.
players who said that, are they doctors? Those people who said that? Anybody that you said that they examined Jaylen. I mean,
No.
these names you going. People said who. I mean, this isn't Trump land. I'm just trying to find out who who are the.
No,
That's
but
all
this
like
is
Trump
the
says sometimes. Trump would
no,
go. They
but
hey,
it's a great
that's
question for
what they
you.
say. That's
It's a
what they're
great question
saying
for you,
right now.
being a former player, obviously, who is, I mean, you had a great career, and anything we could
Mhm.
possibly ask you about, you've been through, you've experienced. You know what it's like to, know your body's limitations, or to push your body in a certain situation where it's like, man, should I be out there? Shouldn't I be? Or as Ev just mentioned, like, should I be out there to sort of recalibrate and see what I can do, what I can't do versus what I can normally do and normally, all of that. So is,
I asked a couple of people. A
mm,
couple of people would be, doctors and people who've looked at Jalen. And I said, "What is wrong?" They said he has a bone bruise. I said, "Is there a healing process with that?" And they said, "I said, well, rest make that go away." And they said, "I don't know. It's blood flow going back to that area." Uh, Playing with an amount of being uncomfortable. He might have to do that. One thing we saw, well, I think it was the first time I saw him out there, he was kind of limping around in a particular game. It was in Miami. It's one of those games late in the year, limping
mm,
around. And then he got warmed up, and then it didn't even look like the injury affected him. So even with him resting, this is what this is what some people are saying right now. Even with him resting, it might be one of those situations where it doesn't heal until sometime later. And I think that you have to say this with most NBA players. At this time of the year, everybody is going to have something that is wrong with them because of the length of the season, the physicality of the season. And we're talking about now where the season or basketball, NBA basketball, I dare say if NBA basketball is less physical than college basketball. I saw more physicality in the
mm,
women's game than some of these NBA games. You
mm.
touch a guy, whoa! Well, how many times we seen LeBron James just like you go near his eye and he's throwing his head back
Yeah.
and rubbing, and you see does he? So there's a lot of gamesmanship that is being played. But I believe that in the case of Jaylen Brown, rest isn't necessarily going to be the determining factor about if he comes back. They're doing all they can to get him back, and he doesn't feel any pain or anything out there. I don't know if that happens the before this or before it gets started. Now, I don't know if it happens.
Do you think there's any chance he misses the Orlando series just because, again, I mean, you thought I was taking the Magic lightly before. Wait till you hear this one. I don't think you need Jaylen Brown to beat the Magic. So that in mind, what
I'm
if
glad. I'm glad you're not. I'm glad you're not a player. I'm
yeah,
glad you're not a player because they call that bulletin board
yeah,
material.
yeah.
They put that up on the
Nope.
board, going, "Hey, see what this guy said. See what this show that they're talking about the
Well,
beat.
cool.
See what
When
they said."
good. When Ben
And
Caro tunes into Celtics Beat, he can shoot
yeah,
me a DM and let me know.
yeah. So I think that part of that could be the case. You think about it. How much did you need Porzingis last year before he came back and played? You tried to make sure it was healthy, but at the very end, what did he do? Hurt his ankle. You have to have a certain amount of luck
Hmm.
during the playoffs, and luck is in basketball going in health situations. I think the Celtics are very healthy right now with what they have. We've seen Derek White turn the corner, have a second half that was unreal. Drew Holiday, a little slow, maybe in the midseason. Seems like he's rounded the corner. And Tatum is still that dude. But I've always said that, so I'll say it on your air. This let me see, I get it. This cut right here, this is Jaylen Brown. This is Tatum right here. Tatum is a drink. This is the straw. Jaylen Brown is a straw. So he's the one that stirs this drink. So I think you absolutely need him. Maybe not in this series, But if you're going to win a championship here, I think he has to be healthy.
Yeah.
Let's take one quick break, tell you about our good friends who power this show at Game Time. There's nothing better than going to a game live. So many core memories I have as a kid revolve around going to some sort of a sporting event, maybe even a playoff game. I can tell you, I've been to Super Bowls, which has been awesome. Gone to, with the Celtics, obviously, we're a Celtics themed show. I went to Celtics playoff games all throughout the new Big Three era. Not fortunate enough to go back when Larry Bird and company were here, but the new Big Three era, including Game 1 of the NBA Finals against the Lakers the first time around. Tons and tons of fun. And now, going to a game, it's easier than ever, thanks to our friends Ev over at Game Time.
But the best part about Game Time is when you're scrolling through the app, you can see right up front, they tell you right at the beginning what the best deals on certain tickets are. They'll weigh the value of a ticket versus where you're sitting versus what the market's telling you. They have all these things kind of cobbled together so you can figure out what the best deal is, and you can even see it, a view from your seat, if you want to just make sure that that is the exact place that you want to be. Game Time is not just for sports, concerts, theater, live comedy events. All of those can be found underneath the Game Time umbrella. They have all-in pricing, so there's no hidden fees. We got to check out what you see at the jump is the price you pay at the end. Like I said, you get a panoramic view from your seat in the app before you buy it. And Kaufman Game Time has the lowest prices, and if they don't, they will credit you 110%, of the difference. So you're making money with Game Time if you find something cheaper.
Take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Game Time. Download the Game Time app. Create an account, use the code CLNS, get $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create a Game Time account. Redeem the code CLNS, $20 off, just like that. Download Game Time today. What time is it? Game Time. All right, Max, you were just talking about how the Celtics, and as Grandy has mentioned a number of times, one of the great road teams in NBA history. This team this year, I know at home there have been some inconsistencies there, but you couldn't have asked for a much better finish to the season in totality. Boston 19-3 since the start of March, and even that's a little bit skewed because I just mentioned, a loss a couple weeks back to the Magic when nobody out there played. It was effectively the G League team that was out there for Boston. So even that could have been a win if they cared to win that particular night. So what is it? We keep talking about the Magic on the other side and what you need to worry about with them. When it comes to Boston and the Celtics simply playing their game and sort of staying within bounds of what they do right, what they do well, what are you looking for right out of the chute from this Celtics team when the playoffs begin?
And, I love when you give me the answers beforehand. And the answer is exactly what you're saying. Be who you are. Don't try to create, a whole nother thing. Don't try to invent the wheel again. You are a three-point shooting team. You are a good defensive playing team. What got you to this place? The fact that you shoot the threes better than anybody in the history of the NBA, made more than anybody in the history of the NBA. You have great players who, if they're healthy right now, this can be a dominant run. So I think that's the big thing. Just don't get those missteps. Those missteps that we try to create something. You're trying to do something, be something that you're not. And Joe Mazzulla has done a great job of keeping those guys balanced and focused. And they are who they are.
Yeah, last year, one of the things that I really enjoyed, and I think Jaylen said it a lot, and I think I heard Tatum say it, and the difference between last year and years prior was, and I'm trying to direct quote here, we didn't skip any steps, right? Trying to get by an opponent before you really do. We refer to that in 2023, going to 6 games, the Atlanta Hawks. They had no business doing that. They should have easily finished that series in 5 games, but they had to play an extra game. Did you see that switch flip last year into this team is way more serious than they were in previous trips? This is a team that looks like can get it done, because last year it looked like they knew that they couldn't play with their food, so to speak. This year, I've noticed kind of similar things. At the end of games in previous seasons, it felt like Boston would get out of sorts, get out of whack. It looked discombobulated, scattered, chaotic. Now at the end of games, and I think this comes from last year and it leaks into the season now that you've won the NBA title, they look so calm and
Mhm.
certain in what they're doing. Have you seen that same evolution throughout the years
Yeah.
here?
When you win it, you have something to think about and something to base things on. When you lose it, again, you have something to base things on. How did we screw up? What did we do? When you win it, you have that basis saying, this is what we did well. We rebounded, we defended, we didn't give up second chance opportunities. We had great bench play. And I still think that this year, here's another guy who's going to come around. Hauser, who had a back impingement. It was tough sometimes for him to move around. He's moving well right now. Pritchard, is he the sixth man of the year? With his scoring. I mean, is he the
Definitely.
sixth man? And then I tell you who's had a unbelievable year that people aren't going to talk about. Luke Cornett. Luke has had a great year. He has been wow. Okay, Evans.
I'm a big Luke Cornett
And
guy. I
Adam isn't.
no,
I am. Of
not a
course
fan.
I am. Who isn't? Who
Whoa,
doesn't love
whoa,
Luke?
wait a minute.
Give Luke a lifetime contract. Don't
We
let him
got
leave.
we got the hosts going back at each other like okay. But Luke was really good in his role. He stepped out of this year. What did he do? He tried two threes the entire year. One against New York, desperation, missed the entire. But then one time at this point this season, late in the season, took a three, missed it. But he is not looking around. He's not joking around. He is around the rim. He does what he needs to do. Adam, you said it best. Be who you are. Luke, you're not a three-point threat right now. What you are, you're around the basket. You're a facilitator. You set picks. You block shots. You run the floor. When Porzingis isn't playing well, you can come in now. Even now, you can go with your two ivory towers. You can bring them in, and they play well together. You've never heard that before, the ivory towers.
Yeah.
That's pretty good.
Yeah, you got Luke and Porzingis. You bring them in together. I mean, these are the two elephant bones. The two tusks. You could essentially say they can come in and they can play. They can play tower to tower. So I like the opportunities that you have with those guys.
Oh man.
Adam, I didn't know I was coming off for comic relief. I didn't know that. I got
That's all right.
Evan. I'll be
You
back
never know.
next year, folks. I'll be back next year.
In the spirit of being back, Max, look, you are a two-time champion as a player, obviously. We always like to mention 81 Finals MVP when you come on. It's always part of the introduction, everything.
Mhm,
You go back in 82 and team loses in the conference finals.
mhm.
You win again in 84, team loses in 85 to the Lakers in the NBA finals. So you didn't have the pleasure, obviously, of winning consecutive championships, which is something that is, of course, very difficult to do, but not unusual, by no means unprecedented in NBA streets. We talk about teams that, have back to back or three peats, and that, it's like any dynasty in throughout like each decade of the NBA. There's that one team that went on a nice healthy run of championships. This year's Celtics, or this generation of Celtics, trying to do the same thing. Obviously, they win almost, and I'm being sarcastic when I say this, but almost effortlessly last year. It looked so easy to those of us that were watching. This year, people talk about the path being more difficult, the expectation that it's going to be Oklahoma City in the NBA Finals, if and when you get there, representing the Western Conference. I do think the West is more challenging than the East. We can touch on that if we want to. But specifically, as you look at this Celtics team and what they have in front of them, I think Mazzulla is a perfect guy to remind them on a daily basis that what you've done in the past doesn't matter. He's been doing that from day one. But beyond that, just how difficult is this road in front of them the next couple of months?
You are correct in the fact that you've been there and you've done that. Joe Mazzulla mentioned to me, he said, Max, what I want is I want to win another championship back to back because that puts his team, in rare air. To be in rare air with the Boston Celtics is crazy. Sean Grandy and I had a spirited conversation the other day on air. He asked my opinion, and I love this. He says, "So, do you think the '86 team was the greatest team ever?" And I said, "No." He said, "Well, you can't say that." I said, well, "Wait a minute. You asked me my opinion. I'm giving you my opinion. You know, it's almost like when you talk to a guy like Michael Felger. He'll ask you a question, but he answers the damn question for you. It's like, dude, don't ask me the question. What you need to do is just go ahead and get on the diatribe and say what you need to say, but don't ask my opinion if you don't want to hear it. But Joe Mazzulla wants this team to be in a situation they can be in that rare air where you didn't have the Larry Bird teams that won two in a row. You didn't have JoJo White and Charlie Scott and Dave Cowens. Those teams didn't win two in a row. The only teams we think about that won multiple times in a row, that was Bill Russell's championship teams. So I think that's why Joe Mazzulla is really up on it. Give you a little, and we'll see if this happens. But Joe Mazzulla actually told me, he said he saw the Celtic City thing. He loves it. He walks up to me, punches me in the back, and said, "Man, you become more of my hero now since you attacked a fan in in the crowd." I was like, "Damn, Joe,
It's about
really?"
that life. I'll tell you that right now.
Really? He said, "Yeah, man." But he said, "But seriously, you know what? I would like for you to talk to my players about losing and what it was like in '84 when you guys won, and then '85 when you guys lost, and then 81 where you won, and then '82 where you lost, to give them perspective on what it takes to win. It takes health, it takes camaraderie, it takes luck, it takes a certain amount of courage, and because people, the thing that people are, they're haters. They are, it's, I always say this with all these Celtic hating fans out here, A, B, C. Anybody but the damn Celtics. That's how they look at it. So I think that that's another thing that you have to circle the wagons and look at the guy beside you on your left and to your right, and he's going to pick you up. And that's the way they're going to win a championship. They have the experience. They have two superstar players. Porzingis is the unicorn. He is unique. Dare I say, and you might want to argue with me about this, but can you give me two guards in Boston Celtic history that have combined defensively to be better than White and Drew Holiday? Give me the two guards. What two guards you? Give me two guards that you want to say.
Well, I'm just picking Dennis Johnson out of the air because I think if you're going to put anybody in the conversation with those guys,
Okay,
he's gonna be there.
that's one. Give
One,
me
I
two
know.
guards combining together. Two guards combining together in Celtic history that have been better defensively than Holiday and White.
This
I
is
love
tough.
that. I love that. There you go, Adam. That doesn't normally work on these shows. We have to talk about it. That yeah, that doesn't necessarily work like that.
No,
I'm going throughout here, and I'm like trying to I'm picking out like a great guard defender of every era, and trying to figure out who played with them. And I'm like, well, the other guy is like Tony Allen, but the guys that play with Tony Allen, they don't have defensive chops like that. So this is tough. I have to really think about this because the point being like they might not have
well,
ever had.
I'm just thinking about the guys that played alongside DJ when DJ was at his best.
That's
when
where
he was
that's the first
player of
place
the
I
year
went
candidate
with
DJ, and it's
Danny,
like, well, Danny was
Ain't.
the first one that came to mind, but I'm
Danny
not
Ain't.
gonna right, but I'm not gonna say that Danny and
Come on, yeah.
DJ combined what Holiday and Drew combined give you as you're talking.
Only one I've heard mentioned, and I talked to a couple of people who were former Celtic players, and they go on, they say Casey Jones and Sam Jones. They said they were those kind of defenders. I don't know enough about them, but one thing I know, they had Mr. Russell behind them. So if you want to drive towards the basket, help yourself. help yourself.
How recent did Joe ask you to speak to the team about this? This is
It was
I find this
about it was
fascinating.
no, it was about a week ago. We
About a week
talked for a
ago.
minute, and he said he wanted me to do that. So I'm gonna see if he wants me to do it. But he
Oh,
just mentioned
you
it.
haven't done it yet. You haven't spoken to the
No, I
team
have
yet.
not done it yet. No, I have not done it yet. So I'm gonna see if Joe actually wants me to do it. I'd be glad to.
You going off the
And
cuff? Or
excuse me.
you gonna go off the cuff? Or you're gonna plan this out a little bit.
No, I think that what I'm telling them is pretty simple. I don't think that it takes a rocket science to. I think you can't have animosity because the first thing you look at is Tatum and Brown, and you're going, these are the two dudes. But what I love about them is with their individual accomplishments, they've always talked about the other guy, and they always talked about their other teammates. Uh, when we lost in 1982, there was a full revolt that people. Bill Fitch was there, and guys just
Mhm.
didn't get along. They didn't like the way they were being treated by the coach. I don't think they have that with the present coach right now. In '85, when the Celtics when we lost, I'm saying Celtics when we lost, yours truly was hurt, and there was a lot of pressure on me to come back and play, and my body did not respond. So I think that was another thing. But I always laugh because I think of this, like when it says, "How good was I if we had four guys who were going to be one of the top 75 players of all time, and they needed me." they, like, how good was I? So
Oh,
yeah,
maybe
so
top 75, maybe. I don't know.
yeah, so I look at that. You got Kevin McHale, Robert Parrish, Dennis Johnson. You go down the line, those right there, and Larry Bird. Those four guys, they were on that team.
Mhm.
If you going, we lost because you, as Oprah would say, you didn't come back and you weren't healthy. But I knew at that time that physically, my body did not respond. It wasn't anything that I could do. And that's what really, for me, looking at Jaylen Brown, I hope he's not in that position of being hurt, that, he thinks he can, he tries to do more than he can do. I hope he just gets back to being healthy, and that'll be a good thing for the Celtics.
So if most people, and I think there's degrees of it in the three of us in terms of maybe the level of mockery a Celtics Orlando series looks like. I'm probably at the head of taking it the least seriously, but going forward in the playoffs, I don't think it's a walk in the park to a championship ever. You got to go through good competition, and like you said, you need some luck along the way, and sometimes that's
Did
in
they? Did
individual
let me ask you
matchups,
this?
sometimes it's
Did they
helpless,
do
whatever.
that? Did they do that last year? Was it a walk in the park? Seemed like
Well,
everybody said. Seemed
it
like
it
everybody said it was just a walk in the park. It's
I mean,
like
but I'll tell you what, I don't know that I would say it was a walk in the park so much as the Celtics made it look like a walk in the park. It was not like for instance, and I always go back to this, the Pacers series, it was a sweep. I mean, they swept the Pacers, but every game was close and every game was, single digit, closely contested, like
my
could have
friend,
gone either way. It's
my
just so happened that
friend,
Boston won all four.
my friend. You know what that does? Getting close counts two ways: horseshoes and nuclear war. That's the only, that's the only thing that you can be close in that you get points for. I've heard people, oh my God, the Patriots, the Pacers really gave them a tough time. I said, what was that series? Oh, they got swept. Okay, was it contentious sometimes in that series? But you always felt like the Celtics were going to win. I didn't think they were going
Sure.
to sweep them, but when they swept them, and then you looked at Cleveland come in, and Cleveland played well. I think you saw the emergence of Mobley to who he is
Mhm.
now. Celtics won, but Mobley, and then you did not have. I think you went back, and the Spider didn't play, so Cleveland has that hanging on their hats this year. But I like the Celtics in the East. I'm like you, Adam. I like the Celtics in the East. If they are healthy, I like them. We're talking about what's our sponsor right now? Prize what?
Game
Game
time.
time.
Game time. Game time is our one of our sponsors right now. The series you need to watch out for is the New York Knicks versus Detroit. I know the Knicks are probably favorite. Sean Grandy wants the Knicks to win. I don't know if they beat Detroit. The physicality of Detroit, and I don't see the Knicks being a tough, mentally minded team. What I see in Detroit right now, it's going to be a dogfight. You know, when you think about having some of the guy, Cade Cunningham has been really good, and everybody wants to go play in the Garden. And
Mhm.
then on top of that, you look at Isaiah Beef Stew, he's going to be physical. Dern is going to be physical. I like
Ron
what they
Holland's going to try
bring.
and start a fight with
I
somebody
like,
for sure.
yeah, man. I like what they bring to the table. I love what they bring to the table against the Knicks playing New York. Because as we know, all the pressure's on the Knicks. There's no pressure on Detroit. So what happens if the Knicks somehow falter Karl Anthony Towns? This is a resume for the New York Knicks right there. And here's the thing: you look at the Knicks this year. How many games did those top three teams? How many games? This is to our audience right now. How many games did the New York Knicks beat the top three teams? All right, this is how you do it. Close your eyes. Tell me what you see. Hey, I got it. Nothing. They didn't win one game. They didn't beat Cleveland. They didn't beat
Nope.
the Celtics, and they didn't beat OKC. So
Mhm.
they played 8 or 9 games and didn't
10.
win one against one of those
10, yeah.
guys.
0 for 10.
Hmm.
Not
For those
great.
of you listening to this show, we ask that you subscribe to the podcast, like, and
Oh
leave a
yeah.
review. And for those of you watching the show on CLNS, make sure you go ahead, hit that like button, subscribe to Celtics All Access, the YouTube channel, where you can find our show, Max's show, a lot of other great Celtics content. Please make sure to turn on your notifications so you know the instant new videos drop as well. Max, it's great that you brought this up because I was going to do this a little bit later. No better time than now. I had to fill this out for something the other day. So I had already thought about my playoff predictions for each series. And I'm not going to go like, 4-2, 4-3. I'm not going to do any of that. But in terms of who wins them individually, my belief, Thunder takes care of whoever it is. Obviously we'll get clarity on that later today. I think the Nuggets beat the Clippers in a long series. I think the
Ooh.
Lakers actually do get the best of the Timberwolves. I know there are a lot of people that are picking Minnesota in that one, even though
Ooh.
LA is the favorite. I think the Rockets are going to have a really hard time beating Golden State, but I do think Houston prevails and then gets knocked out in round two against whomever that is. Cleveland obviously will have no trouble with its first round opponent, nor the Celtics with the Magic. I think the Pacers beat the Bucks, especially because I don't anticipate we're going to see Dame again. At least, definitely not this year. Maybe not even
Mhm.
in a Bucks uniform, depending on how things go. And the one that you hit on off the hop, that's my big upset pick. I think Detroit beats the Knicks. I really do. I think the Pistons win that series. There's something about this Knicks team. I like them a lot the last couple of years, and I don't want to isolate this specifically to outgo Randall and DiVincenzo and
You
in comes
should.
Towns.
You
But
should.
but there's a toughness element that is missing on this team that was there. And it's, I Brunson hasn't looked quite the same. Towns statistically had a great year. He did. But there's what Evan and I talk about it all the time. There are matchup concerns defensively with this team. I think Detroit, I wasn't so sure that midseason run they went on, going
Mhm.
from a sub 500 team to obviously vaulting themselves up to the 6th seed as they did, if I should buy in, if I should take it seriously. But in this particular matchup against the Knicks, I am. I'm ready. I think Detroit moves on.
Well, there's a name you did not use, and I think it's a difference in what the Knicks are and what OKC is. Hartenstein.
Yeah.
Hartenstein, big body, about 6'11", played on the defensive end, was gritty, bought them a certain amount of street cred, the way he played the game. You don't have him. You miss that. You dearly miss that. You think even last year in that game that they end up winning, Hartenstein gets a huge rebound, kicks it out to DiVincenzo. He misses one. Hartenstein gets it again, kicks it out to DiVincenzo. He knocks down the three. Those two names aren't there. And they have a certain amount of, dare I say, swag value,
Mm-hmm.
swagalicious value that they brought to the table that I don't see any other Knicks having coming off the bench. They have some questions. Bridges has not been that guy. You gave up 5 first-round draft choices for him. Would you do that again right now?
Not even close.
Big number. I'm with you.
Yeah.
So I think you and I are kind of on the same page with that with the Knicks. It's gonna be tough. It's gonna be a tough series for them. I mean, I think of all the teams that are below them, that's the last one that they care to see because of the physicality that this Detroit team is gonna bring to the table. And I can remember sitting there looking at their coach and Bickerstaff, and he kept going down the line. Damn it, I'm tired of this shit. Our players are busting their asses and they're getting no respect from the referees. This has to stop. We go out there and we play our asses off and no respect for our team. And we don't get any calls. It's a travesty. I hate it. And we're gonna get this shit is gonna stop. And whoa. I was like, whoa, get on your soapbox, big guy, and holler for your team. We haven't seen that in a minute from any team. And for you guys, you think about it. This year, this NBA year has been dotted with some of the biggest surprises that we've seen. How about the coaches who've been let go in the last couple of weeks?
Mm-hmm.
How about the Luka trade? The Luka trade right now. And Anthony Davis. Dare I say, one of the biggest trades maybe in the history of the NBA?
Yep.
I mean, and then I would want to differ and maybe think of this way though. Would you say that the Kevin McHale, Robert Parrish, and Joe Barry Carroll was that a bigger trade?
Well, sure.
Well, because they won titles.
Yeah, I mean, it was a bigger trade because of what eventually Boston accomplished, and not in terms of the names at the time. Like we've had this conversation on the show before, so anyone out there watching, listening, I don't want to bore you with my whole long thing again. I'll just very briefly. This because of
my friend,
Luka,
this is your show, okay?
Luka.
This is your show. You
Yeah,
do
but
what
there's
you
some
want
people
to
in the
do.
YouTube comments that tell me I talk too much, Max.
Yeah,
It doesn't matter if it's my show.
Go
They tell
to
me I
another
talk too much.
station then. Nick Joso has a ton of shows. Go to those if you want.
That's right.
If you want,
No,
if you want to be sugar coated like that. I was there one time. It was Michael Felger. I was happened to be when he was working for NBC, and he was talking. Some intern came up, and he looks at the intern and said, "You know what? If you need to be buttered up, you go in there and talk to Tangway. I don't do that. I don't do that." So this is your show. You tell me
No,
what you think.
I'll just say this. Here's the thing with Luka. Like it goes to in terms of shock and the immediacy of it, and obviously part of it is the era that we live in, social media and everything, and
Thank
hot
you.
takes and everything is absolutely one of the biggest trades in NBA history. But just because it's that right now doesn't mean it will be a decade from now if Luka never wins with the Lakers. If if the Mavericks somehow 5 years from now win a championship without Luka, I don't think that's going to happen. But and I do think Luka is going to get over that hump with LA at some point. Not this year, not even with LeBron, but at some point, ushering in that new era. I do think it's going to happen at some point. But if it never does, and Luka goes on to have an amazing career and he's a top 50 all-time player, Hall of Famer, all that, but he doesn't get the ring, then it all of a sudden it isn't one of the greatest trades of all time anymore. It's just a trade involving a big name. So that Celtics trade that you brought up, much bigger because of what it did to the Celtics.
Oh, yeah, no question. I relate it more to the Mookie Betts trade of absolutely just tore the hearts out of the entire fan base. The difference is the Mookie Betts trade we knew was coming for years, and this in the Luka trade happened overnight. I still haven't really watched a Red Sox game since they traded Mookie Betts. I just don't. I was never comfortable with it. And this year I might dive back in when life settles down a little bit. But like I flat out, I have not watched the Red Sox game since they traded me. I just
Well, they got some good young players. You should check them out sometime.
It's possible. I might this year. This will be the first year in like 5 years I've watched a Red Sox game, just because I just couldn't. I can't stand by it. I cannot stand by a team that trades the face of their franchise, who's as good off the field as he is on the field, for no reason other than we didn't want to pay him. I couldn't never wrap my head around it. I never got a hold of it. I could tell you where I was when it happened. I was walking my dog in the wintertime when it happened. I was like, it was the saddest walk with a dog of my entire life. Have you ever Kaufman, you've had a dog before?
Oh yeah, I had a dog. I got a dog right now.
You ever have a frown on your face when you walk your dog? You ever have a frown on your face when you walk your dog? It's never happened to me ever until that time. That's it. Only time.
I'll tell you what, though, with the Red Sox, this is going to be completely unrelated to anything we're doing. I don't know if people will be able to see this when I show it on my screen. This is my favorite little meme going around as it relates to the Red Sox right now with the Alex Bregman edition. Whenever he does something big, people say they're pregnant. His little face on a pregnancy test.
Jeez.
Oh, that one gets me.
Maybe the memes will bring me back off, and maybe the memes will bring
Social media, gentlemen, has changed everything that we do. That was one of Joe Mazzulla's questions to me. We were talking about pressure. He said, I don't want Tatum to feel the pressure. I said, Joe, that's impossible. He's like, why? I said, because social media. Every door he turns, everything he does is magnified. During the 80s when I played, once you went home, people didn't see you. They might get a shot, a glimpse of you, but for the most part, they weren't going to see you around. But right now, Jason Tatum can't go anyplace without a camera being in his face, and he's doing this or doing that. So the pressure that players have, and I said this in front of Joe, and Tatum was right there. I said, I would never want to be you. I said, as much money as you're making is great, but the pressure that you're under every day and the scrutiny that not only for you, but your family, even your son, Deuce, growing up in an imaginary, I don't know what kind of world this is, where, that, and even now I look at the players bringing their kids on the floor and sitting them on the bench. Bill Fish during my era would have had a cow if we try to bring somebody's kid on the bench. I think the closest we came, we had Chris Ford's son was a ball boy. But the way I look at Al Horford kids, and it was Torrey the other day, Torrey Craig's kid. Torrey hit a shot, and his son damn near ran out on the floor. I was like, did anybody see that but me? Like, really? So I love it. I'm not saying that I hate it, but it's a whole nother standard. When the Horford, you guys have been in the game before, when the Horford army comes in, he has what 4 girls, his wife, his son, and it's like an army of people coming through, and it's the focal points now are different. I mean, the Swifties out there in the world, people are paying more attention to her on the sideline than hell at the game, and I hated it.
Max, we don't have you too much longer. We've been going for a little while here. We don't want to occupy all your time, but can't have you on and not get into Celtic City a little bit, because we didn't really have time for it last time you were on. Now you have been. I was texting with your broadcast partner Sean last night. Talking because he finally made his first appearance in the series. You're one of the stars of this series here, and it's been. I don't know if you've seen it all the way through, or if you're watching week by week like the rest of us, but it's been, for Celtics fans, an exhilarating watch, fascinating. I consider myself someone that is pretty well versed on Celtics history. Plenty of things I've probably forgotten and been reminded of during this series. Not too many things along the way. It's like, man, I've never heard that before. And one thing that happened in this most recent show that I had never heard before was the Rick Pitino letter to Chris Wallace and all the staffers about how everyone had to get in shape. If we're going to walk around and preach that the players need to be in shape, you need to be in shape and all that. And so, just so many interesting things out of this, Bill Simmons and company production here on Max, obviously. I'm wondering, what it's like to relive some of this, obviously, and other aspects. Just what you've learned along the way watching this through.
I haven't watched that many. I think that they had the premiere of it,
Right.
and they had the Celtic players and myself and some more people. I think one said that was segment five or segment
I
five.
think it was
It was
5.
the,
Yeah.
the year that I got hurt. The title of that particular uh, intro came from James Worthy. He said, "Fuck the Celtics," and that
Yep.
was that was up there on the screen. And I just laughed. But what I did remember about that was it was some point. There must have been 300-400 people in the room, and and I was kind of sitting in the back, and Bill Walton comes on and he starts apologizing to me. So every
Hmm.
time I saw Cedric Maxwell, what I did was I apologized to him and I told him just he gave his life for me and I
Yeah.
apologized. And then he came back on one more time and said it. And I just had an out of body experience. He said, every time I saw him, I apologized. And I just yelled out in the movie theater. Typical black person going to a movie theater. No, he didn't. No, he didn't. He'd apologize. And everybody just bust out laughing, going, so yeah, I've seen it. It was funny. So I just think that there are some things in it which were really great. Uh, a little bias towards some about Rick Pitino the way he was. I don't think he was as bad or as good, the way they kind of portrayed him.
Hmm.
My buddy ML Carr was in the middle of it. You hear Tommy Heinsohn talking about the team and just how, and then ML Carr talking about, well, we had, we had, we were under the salary cap, and we had two picks in the first five. We were just unlucky not to get Tim Duncan. And a lot of the scuttlebutt was with Tim Duncan, would he have come here if Rick Pitino would have coached?
Hmm.
One thing I remember talking to Tim Duncan one time, he was coming on the floor. This is about 5 or 6 years ago. He was assistant coach for San Antonio. And
Hmm.
I looked at him, I said, he's walking by me. I said, there go my damn rings right there. And he looked at me and he turned around and he started smiling. I said, oh, cornbread, man, I'm sorry, man. I'm really sorry. But yeah, there was this whole thing. And can you do any other team other than the Lakers? Or can you do Chicago and get this kind of interest in it? I mean, the Lakers might be close with all the things. Lakers could be done maybe
Yeah.
because of
Lakers are the
all
only other one.
all the things that happened. With you think about the Lakers during Chamberlain's era. They always have Jerry West in here, and and he's talking. But then you can go to off court things, and you can talk about Magic Johnson with the HIV. You can go to
Hmm.
Kobe with the allegations of rape in
Yep.
Colorado. So the Lakers, maybe the Bulls, but I don't even think the Bulls outside. I think Michael was such a great presence. They did a great job with The Last Dance, but the
Yeah.
Lakers are the only one else I could see that you could actually maybe do something
A
like
whole
that.
history.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah. I agree.
Yeah, I mean, you have to win a lot, and beside between the Lakers and the Celtics, there's a little. It's like half the winning right there. So you could talk a little bit, I guess, about like the Knicks a little bit, maybe like Philly a little bit, but
You
there's
can't
just
really.
not a there's
You
just not a
can't
lot of
really.
yeah.
There's not enough to talk about any of those teams. Only other team I could think about that I would like to get some of that internal stuff on would be maybe Golden State when they were the dynasty for a while
Hmm.
with Steph Curry, with Draymond Green. What went
Oh, it'll
on?
happen. I mean,
What?
those guys are still
Yeah,
playing,
but
but
I think that
a
could be.
decade from
Yeah,
now, I think
yeah,
you'll get one of those multi-part docs
yeah.
about the Curry, Splash Brothers, Draymond, Durant, like the whole era. Yeah, you'll get it. It'll happen.
No, no, I don't know.
KD will produce it, maybe.
I'm trying to figure out the interest level of that team off the court. Where's the
Mm.
interest level off the court?
Well,
I
Clay's
mean,
hilarious. Clay is one of the. Just got a great car collection. He rides his tugboat to the game every day. Like he's
okay, that's good. Is he doing that right now in Dallas? Tugboat?
no,
Is he?
no, no.
Okay.
A
I
little
mean,
more lamb.
I just don't see the off court things other than the Draymond Green
Hmm.
punching Love or what happened with him and Durant.
Hmm.
I don't see that the stuff with the Celtics. I mean, you think about losing two players that died during that
I
particular
can't.
time. And you know,
It's
I love the way they ended. One of them was I think I'm not sure if it was number five or not, but they were going on and they were talking about Len Bias and Len Bias had just been drafted. And then they went on to talk about, they were talking to a reporter, and it was the day after Len Bias had got drafted. And somebody calls, the reporter calls another reporter. He says, "What do you think about Bias?" And he goes, "Man, he is going to be great. Oh my God, I can't wait to see him with the Celtics." Said that.
yeah.
And then all of a sudden, the other reporter said, "Len Bias is dead." And the screen went to black.
Right.
That was surreal.
Yeah.
I said HBO, whoever the directors were at that time, they hit it off right. But that had to do with the Celtics, and then you think about Reggie Lewis dying, in the prime of the prime
Hmm.
of what he was
27.
doing, and so that was there. The history of the Celtics and then I think also you think about
Well,
the
then the Pierce stabbing. What if that had gone the other way? And then
year
like there was, I don't remember,
Pierce.
was it Howard Bryant? I think in the doc, this most recent one was saying, he's like, is this really going to happen a third time? Like it's to the same team?
Yeah.
Like it's unreal.
And you think about and I had an event with Antoine Walker just the other day at a golf tournament, and Antoine went on to go. You know what? When I was with the Celtics, they booed me for taking 12 threes. Now they will be kissing my ass
Yeah.
for the threes
Ahead
I'm
of his
taking
time.
now. So
Yeah.
the rich history of this organization, Red Auerbach, the racism, I think that no other team has touched on, and it's happened to other teams. But Bill Russell, to be who he was, to being a point person for all the things that were going on, to be socially conscious during that time, for Bill Russell to have somebody to come at his house in Reading and take a poop in his bed, that comes to, and this is your best player gets his jersey retired. He doesn't want to even do it with the public, doesn't want to do it with the public at all. He
Hmm.
had him and his teammates were there in the arena, and they retired his jerseys with nobody there but his teammates. What does
Yep.
that say for that player's, uh, I guess, whatever it is for the city? Because
Yeah,
that is
relationship.
that
Yeah,
that that is that your relationship with the city compared to that, and saying, you know what, hell with the city. I'm gonna get my jersey retired. Thank you, Red. I appreciate it, and I'm gonna take it up to the rafters. But the only people here are going to be Boston Celtics and the players.
Yeah. Well, as they said a number of times in the doc, and as Bill Russell's daughter said multiple times, it's, you know, Russell had a relationship with the Celtics. He didn't have a positive relationship with Boston, which is, that was that whole divide that eventually, it was featured in the most recent episode. Eventually, he, because of her largely, sort of, allowed time to heal the wounds, basically, and had that long overdue celebration, many many years after that number went up into the rafters. No, it's been uh, incredible to watch. It's been a ton of fun. Couple
Mhm,
episodes
mhm.
still to go, and I think people will enjoy what's in front of them. Although there'll be some ups and downs, but I mean, we're not even into the new Big Three era yet, let alone this current era. So it's going to be a lot of fun, a lot of winning in front of it too. Max, before we let you go, I mentioned it much earlier in the show, but now another book. You partnered up with Mike Eisenberg again, and tell us about the new one.
Um, the Banner book is really cool. It breaks down the whole. I guess it breaks down the players. and Joe Mazzulla, what happened for this team to win a banner last year. And we just kind of went through it bit by, player by player, piece by piece, talking about, what a job and who's going to go for naught with this again is Brad Stevens. I mean, I remember Brad Stevens was first hired when Danny Ainge left. And I remember people complaining and saying, Brad Stevens, I'm not sure. And I remember saying, who would be better to pick the groceries for this team than Brad Stevens? Especially if he knew how bad this team was and what it needed. And he's done an unbelievable job. Maybe you think about some of the steals he's had. I mean, to go out and get Porzingis. And everybody loved Marcus. Well, I love Marcus Smart. A lot of other people love Marcus Smart. He had a certain disdain in this city, which was crazy. But to get rid of Marcus Smart, to bring Porzingis in, Drew Holiday to replace Marcus Smart, to go out and get Derek White, that nobody really give up 2 picks for Derek White. Everybody was complaining. Derek White, those picks were more than, worth their weight in gold. Pritchard locked into a long-term deal. Sam Hauser locked into a long-term deal. It's going to be the big thing about us now. Can you keep all these players with this next apron that they have? And we talked about that throughout with the book. Matter of fact, they gave the book away at halftime. No, at a certain point in the game this year, they gave the book away to Lucky Roll 15. And I signed all 15 books, and they had it up on the Jumbotron. So the banner book is really a cool one, and I hope a lot of people get a chance to see what, myself and Mike did and how we try to tie things together.
I don't know how you find the time, man, but yeah, people should definitely check it out, all the while watching Celtic City and following this team's pursuit of now Banner 19. Maybe that book will get a sequel about this time next year. But Cedric Maxwell, again, part of the CLNS family as well. We always enjoy when you hop on. Glad we had much more time this time around than the last. We didn't have to rush anything, and we'll do it again as these playoffs continue. Hopefully a good couple-month journey for him.
Sounds good, my friend. I hope you guys have the best of luck, and I'm sure I'll see you guys down at the Garden.
Looking forward to it. Again, for Cedric Maxwell, Evan Valenti, I am Adam Kaufman. Rate, review, subscribe, most importantly, to Celtics Beat. Thanks to our friends over at Game Time. We will catch you again real soon.